People who don't know who they are and who don't understand themselves will never be happy. Because how can you be happy? How can you live a successful life if you don't even understand yourself? Doesn't make any sense. The first step to understanding yourself is to know at which level of personal development you're at. In life, you're either going up or down. And if you don't know how to manage yourself, how to grow yourself, you will be dying every single day. So listen up.
I think we all have the point there when just tries to like.
So I still remember when I began on personal development, I learned about PUA, right? The game, how to, you learn about yourself and you grow yourself to become more confident around women so you can date women, right? And me, who was a very shy guy, it made a lot of sense. When I entered into that community, all of the things that they said I thought like were true, and I thought like it made so much sense to me. But the problem was that I didn't know the limitations of that community. And I thought it was cool. I was like, yeah, get more girls, get success, get more confidence, get more friends, be more popular, and I thought it was cool, right? But I couldn't see past that materialistic paradigm, that materialistic worldview, and that caused a huge problem because I wasn't very fulfilled. I went in that journey, right, of becoming better with women, better with myself, and I don't know why, but I wasn't happy. There was something missing. There was this sort of like sense of purpose and contribution missing. This is why I started diving deeper in personal development and started coaching people in personal development, help them to, overcome their quarter-life crisis, help them find their purpose, help them find, their passion in life. Because I realized, that there was something way beyond that was even more interesting, in life. So before I tell you about all the stages in personal development, there's 3 stages that I've learned from, my experience in coaching. You have to understand that certain stages can overlap. Not all stages are unique individual parts, right, that are different from the rest. Number 1 can overlap with number 2 and number 3 to some extent. Maybe you have 10% of number 3, 80% of number 1, and for example, right? So not everything is black and white, right? So don't pride yourself on being stage number 3, you're the highest stage, and deny that you were ever at stage number 1. We all go through these stages, so keep that in mind. So the first stage is the diplomat. Diplomat, it says it in the name, basically you're someone who seeks peace, right? Someone who seeks harmony, like the conformity of the group, right? Those are sort of the things that you are familiar with. You could characterize as sort of the stage blue spiral dynamics as well. Basically, the stage where you're not really in personal development. It's sort of like this unconscious incompetence, right? There's like things that you don't know about yourself, things that you don't know, like you don't know that if you were to, start thinking for yourself more and have more of an independent mind, that you could go, you could really reach a higher level in life. You don't know that. So it's sort of like this unconscious incompetence, not knowing really how you can improve yourself and believing that you don't really need to improve yourself, right? And in that stage, the diplomat stage, it's very hard for a coach to come in and help that person, right? In fact, if you're in that stage, you're probably not even looking at this channel, right? If you're sort of the conformist, the person who like wants to, follow the societal narrative of like go to school, get a job, do this, do that, like following this narrative. If you want to do that, then this channel probably isn't for you. You're probably not at that, you're still at the beginning stages, right? This is usually a stage, I believe, like everyone, especially when you're young, right? Let's say when you're a child and you really look up to your parents and, you see sort of your parents as like the godlike figure, right? It's like this, in psychology, literature, there's like different stages of development, right, in a person's life. And the beginning stage is like you look up to your elders, you look up to your parents as guidance. You see authority as like the ultimate power, the ultimate form of power and ultimate thing that you should emulate, right? And what happens if you don't graduate past that stage is that basically you're a child forever in my eyes, and you're stuck at the diplomat, right? Basically, just doing what other people are doing, not wanting to be polarizing, right? It says in the word diplomat, meaning like, right, you're not gonna say anything politically incorrect. You're not gonna like risk like saying kill all the Jews or kill all black people, right? Like, just kidding. Oh, that's horrible example, but you're not gonna risk doing things that are outside the norm, right? The diplomat is very past focused, right? That's the problem with diplomat, is that they look at their culture, they look at society from what society has done before, and it's sort of this mindset of how things were done before is how we should do them today, which is, in my opinion, a flawed way of doing things. But yes, you want to learn from your mistakes, you want to learn from the past. It doesn't mean you have to repeat it. But diplomats, unfortunately, they don't necessarily see that link, and that keeps them trapped. In summary, the diplomat really is guided by fear. Fear is the one thing that is guiding the diplomat into taking decisions, right? Because of the fear, because of, they're afraid of what other people will think. They're afraid of being ostracized from their peer group. They're afraid from being rejected. They're afraid of what will happen if they stand out and, they start their own YouTube channel and their friends starts laughing at them, right? Whatever. The fear is what guides them. But if you're guided by fear, you'll never amount to anything in life. So keep that in mind. The number 2 stage of personal development, I like to call, is when you reach the expert stage. The expert stage is basically sort of the stage, you can characterize it as the stage orange of spiral dynamics, kind of. It's the stage where, you start to learn stuff. You start to learn about personal development, maybe. You start to learn about PUA, maybe. Whatever you learn, you start learning about health, about, now you... For example, you become a vegan and you're like, vegan is the way to go, and you become sort of an expert about it. And you learn this sort of, you develop this sort of like pride about yourself, right? This sort of power-seeking need. You sort of like, you realize that knowledge is power, so now you want to use that, and make yourself an expert. You sort of derive power from that knowledge, derive power from your ability to, know things and, have an expertise into one thing, right? So maybe, for example, someone was a diplomat, right? Began life, and now he's like, oh, you know what? I want to become this now. Maybe they want to become a YouTuber, entrepreneur, and then they go on this journey to, this is basically the hardcore self-help stage, and it's basically the stage where you can become a little bit myopic, a little bit close-minded to a single idea, right? Which, I believe is fine at the beginning. It's a transitional stage to stage 3, which we'll get at. So at least the expert stage, you develop some sense of self-autonomy, self-reliance, like a sense of independence, right? And what emerges from there really is sort of your ability to self-motivate, right? To create your own reality in a way, right? Which is great. So you stop being prey to circumstances. You start seeing yourself as like, you know what? I want to do this thing. Fuck what everyone else thinks. Let's just do it, which is great, right? And what can come from that is sort of like this rebellious spirit, which is kind of like this is kind of what Nameless was at the beginning. When I began, was really like there's this stage of like saying fuck you to the societal narrative, fuck you to the 9 to 5, fuck you to the rest of society, and beginning my own life. Authenticity might start to come up in a way, right? Authenticity sort of in its infancy stage here, because you're still kind of it's like this transition from believing a certain paradigm of society to now you believe another paradigm, right? So maybe at first you believe the blue pill society, whatever you want to call it, of like, get a job, whatever, do this, do that, and then get married and have kids, and then you buy into that, right? And then afterwards what happens is now you realize about the red pill of life, of like, no, this is all bullshit, you're gonna become an entrepreneur, you're gonna do your own crap, and then you go into that mindset, and then, which is good, right? But then you're still buying into a paradigm in a way, right? So can you see here that, it's both stage 1 and 2, that there are paradigms, right? Stage 1, you believe a paradigm. Stage 2, you believe another paradigm. Paradigm, by the way, is a worldview, your way of seeing things, okay? And what if you could get to a stage where you don't necessarily believe in any specific paradigm, but you can take all paradigms, all worldviews, and create your own, right? Create your own in a way that is flexible, adaptable, and in a way that, can adapt to circumstances, right? So maybe in a certain area, believing in the 9 to 5 and believing in the middle class society, right? That's a good thing. But then when COVID hits and you're out of business and you no longer have a job and you're fired, then maybe it's a good time to lock down on the entrepreneurship ventures, right? And try to do that. But then maybe something else happens, and then you realize that you do entrepreneurship, it doesn't make you happy, it doesn't make you fulfilled, because it's all about the money and materialism, and then you're like, yeah, you know what? what is beyond that? And then you realize another paradigm, right? So now you have to understand, right, that every stage that I've talked about, like, you can't just stay stuck at that stage. You're going to move on to the next one, right? Because the problem with the expert stage number 2, is that you can develop a sort of resentment for authority, which is unfortunately something I've tend to develop, as I've grown into my young adulthood, right? I start to resent the school system, the education system, because they rejected me at the film school at least 3 times, right? And I had to settle for a shitty program. By the way, you can learn all about it if you click on the link below about the free consultation call, right? You get to hear my story as well. I try to go the DIPLOMAT stage number 1, where I try to follow the system, the school system. It's not working, and there's just something clicks. And I'm just fed up of it. So then I transitioned to the expert stage. Sometimes the resentment for authority is really the igniting flame, and that's fine. It's like sort of the ignition, like the hate and the hatred and the frustration and all that might be the igniting flame towards change, and that's fine at the beginning. So I had that, but you don't want to get stuck on it. So here's stage number 3. The stage number 3 is what I call the achiever. You could categorize it in sort of the stage green to stage yellow of the spiral dynamics if you want to look it up. It's basically the stage where you start to become open-minded, right? The closed-mindedness that you had in the expert stage that, yes, was necessary to some extent for focusing, right? Now it becomes open-minded. You're able to hold focus on one thing, but at the same time you can be open-minded, you can be creative, you can be welcoming of new ideas, right? When you hear an idea about you hear about the sort of PUA mindset of you have to, it's all a numbers game, women, you just have to approach as many women as you can. And now you learn about relationships and how being authentic and stop playing these games, right, that you learn about the PUA community. You can take all these concepts together and you can learn about marriage. Maybe you learn about any sort of different concepts, and then you put them all together and it makes sense, right? It surprised me, for example, the manosphere community. People talk about MGTOW, incel, and PUA. They're sort of they all have conflicting thoughts about things, but if you take a tiny piece of all of these communities and you add them into one philosophy, this is kind of what you can get at that stage. You're able to take different concepts, not become so close-minded and want to defend and become sort of a social justice warrior of your own idea. You can take every sample of every idea and make it your own, right? So, but some people, they wonder why do I wear a mask and I speak about authenticity? How does that even make sense? Well, that makes sense because you can do that if you're able to deal with the paradox that, yes, you want to be yourself, but sometimes it's impossible to be fully yourself. And what does being yourself even mean? And what are we even? Are we even human? What are we? Consciousness, whatever, nothingness, atoms in the, in the universe, whatever we are, right? I can take all these paradoxes and make sense of it. And that's what I'm kind of trying to convey to you through these videos, right? But beyond understanding paradoxes and all that, this is the stage where you start becoming more compassionate, more future focused, actually. You start looking into the future of yourself, not just yourself, but the future of the world, the future of your relationships, the future of your family and friends, right? And you look at how can you contribute in a meaningful way to yourself or to society, and you start looking at things more holistically, right? You don't look at things laser focus, closed-minded, sort of the expert, that they just focus on that one thing and that's all they do. For example, they hate women, right? MGTOW, and you just focus on what you hate about women and all the instances they've cheated or whatever, and you start looking up at scientific studies as to how women are more attracted to, men with a square cut jaw. If you don't have that, you're doomed, whatever. So instead of that, you become more open-minded and you become more welcoming of ideas, and you can look at that and okay, that makes sense. Now what do I think, right? What do I think about that? And you have this authentic voice. Your authentic voice starts to come out, and because of that authenticity comes to come out, now you can look at what your future is, right? you become more purpose oriented. You start looking like, well, how can I have an impact on the world? How can I have an impact on other people? That you start looking at greater horizons beyond just your mind, beyond just your own myopic viewpoint, right? And you start seeing other people's viewpoints. And you see every viewpoint as valid in a way. Someone could tell you, for example, that, we shouldn't kill. But at the same time, sometimes we have to kill. Does that make sense to you, right? Some people are like, maybe you're a vegan. For you, so like some hardcore vegans, killing is absolutely unacceptable no matter what, whether it's a human being, whatever it's, an animal. It's the same value, you should never kill. But some people with like maybe a more complex, more nuanced reasoning would say, well, yes, sometimes you shouldn't kill, right? Let's say like killing another human being is usually a wrong thing, but sometimes you have to kill. You have to kill, for example, if a serial killer enters like an elderly home and he loves to kill elders and, he has a gun, right? He has a machine gun, and then police comes up with a pistol. Is the policeman gonna be like, oh, you know what? It's not good to kill, I'm just not gonna kill him. I'm gonna try to ask him gently to put his gun down. No, he's gonna fucking shoot. No, the policeman, the best thing to do probably is shoot the fucking guy in the head so he fucking dies and doesn't kill people. Can you see sort of this nuanced thinking, right? Can you take different ethical viewpoints and put them all together, right? So, I have a video about how to lie, right? How to lie without getting caught. And, it's taking a lot of people that click on that video. Like some of them are like, have genuine intentions to like spot a liar. A lot of them, unfortunately, are a bit fucked up in the head. And why do I keep that video up? Why do I keep it up? Like, is it that like sort of like lack of authenticity, lack of integrity, right? People who say that they never lie are liars. Impossible. You have to understand, like, there are certain times in life where certain things just won't make sense to you, but at other times they will, right? So you understand that each concept sort of have like a time frame as to when it can be applied, right? Each concept that you learn. So for example, being confident makes sense in that area. Being polite makes sense in that area. Being a fucking asshole makes sense in that area. Yeah, maybe there's times when you need to be an asshole. Have you ever thought of that? I don't know, but there are times when, you have to look at nuances here. And if you need help to reach that third state of, the achiever state and become purpose-driven, then you can book a free consultation call with me, link in the description below. And if you like this video about the 3 stages of personal development, then you're gonna love this playlist about advanced topics of personal development. So click right there and I'll see you then. According to logotherapy, the striving to find a meaning in one's life is the primary motivational force in a man. The inevitability of suffering plus our inescapable death created the need for meaning.